Dear friends of free knowledge, how can I present Wikipedia in a useful and appropriate way? Over the years, I have learned a lot from many people how to present or to teach something. Here are a few of my favorite tips for you. Among them is my most important tip for this fictitious museum employee, Lena. Never say yes too soon. Imagine the following case. You receive an email from a non-profit association, perhaps a local history club. The chairwoman, Penelope, wants you to come and do a Wikipedia course at the club evening, how to write articles and so on. What should your reaction be? Under no circumstances should you say yes. At least not without questions. You should ask Penelope, what are the goals? Who are the club members? What do they want? What do they like to do? What makes sense for them at this moment? How much time do you have available? It usually turns out that it is much better to use an evening for an introductory talk, a nice and not too long presentation, relaxed and entertaining, and in a way that everyone understands it without prior knowledge. And later, you can always inquire whether a real editing course makes sense in that club. Tell that Penelope and she will love it. Before an event, you should always agree with the organizer on the objectives and the target group. I once agreed with the museum that I would give an introduction to Wikipedia editing. I was told that the participants hardly knew anything about it. That's how I prepared myself, that's how I gave the introduction. After the introduction, I asked whether anything else was needed before we could start. One woman said harshly, "No, absolutely not. We all knew that already. We want finally to start working on it." An unpleasant moment, and I was confused. Later, I spoke to the organizer again to ask whether my introduction was appropriate. She explained that most of the participants were newcomers, indeed, just not this one woman who complained. Therefore, my advice, talk to the organizer before the event, talk about the target group and what you are going to do. Then you are definitely on the safe side. You are planning for an event where you are going to talk about Wikipedia. A small advice, check the media beforehand to see if Wikipedia has been mentioned recently in the news. Maybe there was a newspaper interview with a Wikipedian or a report about propaganda in Wikipedia articles. It is good to know that because perhaps you can mention these news in your lecture to show the relevance of Wikipedia. And there's even the possibility that a participant has read the news and will ask you about it. If you have read the news as well, that shows that you are competent about Wikipedia and that you keep up with current events. Which software, which program do I use to prepare my presentations? It doesn't matter. Use any program you like, but save the presentation as a PDF file at the end, because you don't know what technology awaits you where the workshop is taking place. Maybe the device you have to use cannot handle a PowerPoint presentation, but a PDF file that can be used almost anywhere. Hey, you may say, what about those fancy transitions that you can only do with PowerPoint? Yes, you cannot have them in a PDF, but I think they don't add much value anyway. When you are a speaker about Wikipedia, when you present yourself as a wiki expert, well, you can be sure that people are going to ask questions. And what kind of questions? What is Wikipedia? What is a wiki? Why are you a volunteer investing time in Wikipedia? Why has Wikipedia become so huge? All right, can you confidently answer all those questions in a way that everybody understands, in a short and appropriate manner? More than once I have listened to a Wikipedia lecture and I thought that the speaker must not have asked himself these questions beforehand. He said, yes, a wiki, that's kind of, well, it's something like... And I think that just makes a very bad impression. You can know in advance that these are very likely questions. Therefore, you can prepare yourself. Write those questions down. come up with good answers and write them down too. Learn them by heart, and whenever necessary, you can simply deliver those answers. Be careful when it comes to technical terms. Try to use as few terms as possible that your audience does not recognize. If you use technical terms, use them correctly and consistently. For example, in talks about Wikipedia you will hear Wikipedia, Wikimedia, Wikimedia Commons, Creative Commons, Wikimania, Wikipedian, users, contributors, editors. That's really a lot for your audience. You have to explain each term well enough, and even then it's a lot for your audience to remember. So try to use as few technical terms as possible. You can leave out details. You don't have to mention Wikimania at all. Or you can call it the main annual meeting of the Wikipedia community or something similar and save the term Wikimania. And if you absolutely want to use the term, then it should be always the same. The name of the website is Wikimedia Commons. Please always use this name and not Wikicommons or Commons. That's confusing, especially if you've mentioned Creative Commons beforehand. Commons. Also, there are different terms for someone who contributes to Wikipedia. Contributor, editor, user, Wikipedian. Choose one of them that you think makes the most sense, and then use only this one term. I know that many speakers don't want to repeat the same term again and again. They want to use different terms for stylistic reasons. But if you want to explain something well, I believe that style or elegance of that kind shouldn't be a priority. It is much more important to be consistent. Is it okay to edit a Wikipedia article about yourself? Let's assume this is Lena. She works for the Museum an der Wupper. Is she allowed to write about her museum in Wikipedia? Or would that be advertising? You know the dilemma. This is the controversial issue of paid editing. We at Wikipedia are rather tolerant when it comes to museums. We say, that's okay, but make sure your text doesn't degenerate into an advert. What would be the most important tip I would give Lena? Please also edit articles that are not directly related to your museum. Improve articles or text passages about the region, for example, about the history and landscape. And if it makes sense, don't just mention your museum in one place, but also another one in your region. Like this. The history of the textile industry in this region is documented by the Museum an der Wupper. Museum X also has a section on this. Museum X is just another museum. Why should Lena definitely do it this way? Lena might think it's too much effort. I respond, actually it's not that much effort if I mention another museum, because what is the big effort in Wikipedia editing? The searching. And before I edit an article, I want to read it first. I want to be sure that the information I want to add isn't already in the article. That's all effort. But if I add a second sentence about another museum, that only takes me 10 seconds. But above all, why shouldn't Lena just add information about her own museum? Because editing in Wikipedia is public. Other people see what she does, especially the regular Wikipedia contributors. These Wikipedia folks then see, hey, Lena's great. She doesn't just write egoistically about her own museum. She knows a lot about the region, and she makes small improvements to the articles. She really wants to support Wikipedia. And when regular Wikipedia contributors see that, they are much more inclined to help Lena. If Lena ever makes a mistake, or if she writes a little bit too positively about her museum, they are much more likely to forgive her. Dear friends of free knowledge, those are my 7 favorite tips for presenting Wikipedia. I hope you find them useful. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.